Today's video is brought to you by KiwiCo. Well, what does KiwiCo do? Well, I'm going to tell you, because they're redefining the future of play. They provide hands-on projects and toys that are designed to expose kids to STEAM concepts. STEAM is basically STEM, except there's an A thrown in there as well, and that's for art. KiwiCo comes as a monthly crate that allows kids to learn at home. They're all designed by experts. The one I'm holding right now is the Eureka crate. It's for ages 14+, and in this one, you get to build your own stereo headphones. So of course, it comes with an instruction manual. It comes with a bunch of parts. Tell you what, I'll throw in some B-roll of close-ups on this stuff, then you'll get a better view of it. There's also this one. They actually sent me this. They were like, they normally just send one crate for me to demonstrate, but they learned that I have a 9-month-old kid, so they sent me an extra one, which is for 0 to 12 months. And maybe this is less interesting to everyone who doesn't have a kid, but it is really nice to see. It's got like all of these, let me just take out these instructions. It's got like all of these like crunchy things that kids love and all of this stuff. This will be really boring, me demonstrating this to anyone without a kid, but it's awesome if you do. They will love this. I'm quite excited to take it home today and let them spit all over it, so that'll be great. There are 8 subscription lines that are available for different ages. These are just 2 of them, so you're bound to find something that your child will love. Importantly, everything you need is in the box, so you don't have to go to the store and buy tons of stuff that you're supposed to have on hand. I was building furniture the other day, and they're like, yeah, all tools included. And they give you an Allen key, but they don't give you the spanner that you also need. KiwiCo, not like that. They give you everything. So go over to their store, there's a link below, find something you'd like to do with your kid and purchase it. You could just buy one box if you like. You don't have to subscribe for the monthly thing. You can just get one and see how you like it. Go to kiwico.com/megaprojects and get 20% off. So click below and let's get into it. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a helicopter? The V-22 Osprey certainly doesn't look like anything we've ever seen before. It looks, frankly, quite bizarre. And it's a revolutionary piece of military hardware, but it's been a bit of a bumpy ride for this bizarre and certainly beast of an aircraft. The Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey is an American tilt-rotor military aircraft capable of both vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL, and short takeoff and landing, STOL. The tilt-rotor refers to an aircraft that generates lift and propulsion using one or more powered rotors, typically at the ends of fixed wings. This is an aircraft that has 2 modes, helicopter and fixed wing, essentially acting as an aircraft rather than a helicopter. While there are certainly other examples of tilt-rotor aircraft, the size and power of the V-22 Osprey places it truly in a league of its own. The failure of Operation Eagle Claw in 1980, a plan to rescue the 52 hostages held captive in the US Embassy in Tehran, highlighted the need for a new long-range, high-speed vertical takeoff aircraft. Despite first appearing in 1989, it was another 8 years before their full introduction, but even then the whole project seemed to be a work in progress. As recently as 2015, the V-22 was still undergoing tests. This has been an aircraft with a catalogue of issues to overcome and costs which have eclipsed initial estimates. But whoever said that designing revolutionary forms of transportation was ever quick, easy, or cheap? Certainly not the military. The V-22 has required plenty of patience, but it's certainly been worth it. Operation Eagle Claw, which took place between the 24th and the 25th of April 1980, was an utter fiasco. The plan to rescue the hostages in Tehran didn't even get past its early stages and was certainly a long way from the Iranian capital. Perhaps the most glaring of the failures was the performance of the RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters. 3 of the 8 helicopters experienced technical difficulties during the mission, heavily contributing to its failure, which ended up costing the lives of 8 US Marines and 1 Iranian civilian. After such a debacle, there was strong consensus that the US needed a major upgrade in terms of its heavy-lifting helicopters. The Joint Service Vertical Takeoff Landing Experimental Aircraft Program, JVX, began in 1981 under the leadership of the US Army. In December 1982, a request for proposal, RFP, was issued, with Aerospatiale, Bell Helicopter, Boeing Vertol, Grumman, Lockheed, and Westland all interested in building this new helicopter. These contractors were asked to partner with each other, with Bell and Boeing Vertol joining forces and submitting a modified design of the Bell 15 prototype on the 17th of February 1983. Considering this was the only design ever received, it wasn't a difficult choice for the American military here. A contract was awarded to Bell Boeing on the 26th of April 1983. On the 15th of January 1985, the JVX aircraft was given a new name, the V-22 Osprey. An Osprey is a fish-eating hawk widespread in the United States and indeed across every continent except for Antarctica. They're big, powerful, and they operate near water. This name therefore seemed perfect for this new aircraft, which had also taken the fancy of the US Navy. By March 1985, the first 6 prototypes were under production, with work split between Bell and Boeing. Bell focused on the wing, nacelles, rotor drive system, tail surfaces, and aft ramp, as well as integrating the Rolls-Royce engines and performing final assembly. Boeing took care of the fuselage, cockpit, avionics, and flight controls. Full-scale development took a giant step forward on the 3rd of May 1986 with a $1.714 billion, about $4 billion today, contract for the V-22 signed by the US Navy. But at this point, all 4 sections of the US military had placed orders for the V-22 Osprey. The V-22 made its public bow in May 1988, and it looked like it would have a blossoming future from there, but things started to go wrong pretty quick. Firstly, the Army left the project, stating they needed to focus on more immediate programs, while in 1989 the V-22 narrowly passed 2 Senate votes, which would have effectively gutted the program. But this was just the beginning of a messy squabble over finance that highlighted both deep divisions within the US government and also the astronomical costs that were being bounded around. The Department of Defense instructed the Navy not to spend more on the V-22, with Defense Secretary Dick Cheney trying in vain to defund the project between 1989 and 1992. He was overruled by Congress, but it was hardly a cohesive unit moving forward. The Clinton administration, which arrived in 1992, seemed much more open to the V-22, and it received the financial backing that it needed. On March 2, 1989, the first prototype took to the sky, but only in helicopter mode. Its first performance in fixed-wing mode came on the 14th of December 1989. Don't worry, I'm going to explain the differences between the two a little later in this video. In December 1990, the 3rd and 4th prototypes took part in successful sea trials on the USS Wasp. The 4th and 5th prototypes, however, both crashed between 91 and 92. Following these 2 incidents, the V-22 saw several design changes to lower its empty takeoff weight, reduce production costs, as well as generally simplifying the manufacturing wherever possible. This is a trend that seems to pop up time and time again with the V-22. The next 10 years saw countless tests and slight alterations. The first of 4 low-rate initial production LRIP aircraft was delivered on the 27th of May 1999, and sea trials were completed aboard the USS Saipan in January 1999. LRIPs are the initial small quantity units which are often used for testing and training in the military, a way of ironing out the creases before full-scale production goes ahead. The V-22 was plodding along painfully slowly, and tragedy was just around the corner. On April 8, 2000, a V-22 carrying 15 Marines along with its crew of 4 crashed in Arizona, killing all on board. The cause of the crash was determined to be the rate of descent prior to the V-22 entering an erratic roll. The aircraft was dropping at a rate of 609 meters, 2,000 feet a minute, well above the recommended 243 meters, 800 feet a minute. All V-22s were grounded as the crash was investigated, but conclusions were ultimately made that the aircraft itself was not to blame. However, and this is a really big however, a report written by the Department of Defense Director of Operational Test and Evaluation stated that the V-22 was not operationally suitable, primarily because of reliability, maintainability, availability, human factors, and interoperability issues. This was a truly damning verdict. It took another 5 years before the V-22 completed its final operational evaluation in 2005, but things were still not quite done. US Navy Air Systems Command began to work on an upgrade to increase the maximum speed from 215 knots to 270 knots and to increase its helicopter mode altitude from 3,000 to 4,300 meters. By 2012, these upgrades appear to have been completed, and the V-22 landed and refueled on board the USS Nimitz in an evaluation in October 2012 and performed cargo handling trials aboard the Harry S. Truman in 2013. But by this point, V-22s were already being used in operations around the world, which we'll come to a little bit later. The V-22 is unique, so it's not entirely surprising that it took so long to get it right. The world's first production tilt-rotor aircraft has 2 3-bladed probe rotors located on the transmission nacelles, mounted on each wingtip, and a turboprop engine. The V-22 is, of course, a little bit helicopter and a little bit aircraft. During takeoff and landing, it normally operates as a helicopter with its nacelles in a vertical position and the rotors horizontal. However, while airborne, the nacelles can swivel forward 90 degrees to transform the V-22 into a fuel-efficient, higher-speed turboprop aircraft. 43% of the aircraft is composed of composite materials, a grouping of different materials with significantly different physical or chemical properties. The rotors are also made of composite materials and can be folded neatly in just 90 seconds when the aircraft needs to be stored. The exhaust heat coming from the V-22's engine is so ferocious it can damage flight decks. To get around this, the Naval Air Systems Command implemented portable heat shields to be placed under the engines while on decks. This is seen as a short-term fix, and eventually decks will need to be redesigned with heat-resistant coating and passive thermal barriers. The V-22 is powered by two Rolls-Royce AE1107C engines. These are connected to a common central gearbox, meaning that one engine can keep the aircraft in the air should the other fail. Now, when I say in the air, it's generally considered that one engine would not be enough to keep the V-22 hovering for any significant amount of time, but it can still theoretically function. In September 2013, Rolls-Royce increased the AE1107C engine's power by 17%, which would also improve reliability in high altitude and high heat conditions. Not only that, but it would boost the maximum payload limitations from 6,000 to 8,000 shaft horsepower. They have a length of 17.48 meters and a width of 25.7 meters, including rotors. The V-22s have a capacity of 24 seated troops or 32 troops floor loaded. Alternatively, it can carry 9,070 kilograms of internal cargo or up to 6,800 kilograms of external cargo using a dual hook. It has a service ceiling of 7,600 meters and a range of 1,628 kilometers. Now, this is primarily a transport helicopter, but it can still pack a punch if needed. It can be armed with one 7.62 by 51mm NATO M240 machine gun or a 12.7mm M2 machine gun on the rear loading ramp. In 2009, half of the V-22s deployed to Afghanistan had BAE Systems' interim defense weapons system installed. This remotely operated gun turret system was used by the gunner to acquire targets through a separate pod using color television and forward-looking infrared imagery. However, its use was limited because of its huge weight of 360 kilograms and the restrictive rules of engagement during the conflict. A roll-on, roll-off aerial refueling kit is currently under development, which would give the V-22 the ability to refuel other aircraft, with Boeing first testing the kit on the 5th of September 2013. This high-speed version of the hose refueling system can be deployed at 185 knots and function at up to 250 knots. This would be performed by using both fuel tanks and a roll-on, roll-off bladder house capable of holding 5,400 kilograms of fuel. It was initially hoped that this might be possible by 2017, but delays have since pushed it back, but it still remains very much in the pipeline. Despite its checkered progress, the V-22 Osprey has been used in numerous operations around the world. By July 2008, a total of 3,000 missions totaling some 5,200 hours had been carried out by V-22s in Iraq. They were mainly used for risky scouting operations and for transportation, and though they were fired upon on numerous occasions, the US didn't lose a single one. The first combat operations came in Afghanistan in 2009 during Operation Cobra's Anger on the 4th of December 2009 in Helmand Province. By 2011, they had amassed 100,000 flight hours throughout Afghanistan. They have also participated in combat operations in South Sudan and Yemen. January 2010 saw V-22s participate in Operation Unified Response after the devastating earthquake that hit Haiti, and in 2013 they were deployed to the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan had swept through the area. In 2014 they were directed to Liberia to aid in the attempt to contain the Ebola outbreak in the country. They have carried presidents, first ladies, generals, and many more, but perhaps one of the most significant people the V-22s have ever carried was very much dead. On the 2nd of May 2011, a V-22 landed on the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson. Its cargo that day was the dead body of the man that the United States had been searching for well over a decade, Osama bin Laden. His body, as we know, was buried at sea, but it was just another day for the V-22. No one would claim that it's been an easy ride for the V-22, but as I said at the start of this video, what revolutionary aircraft has ever had a simple path? At a cost of about $68 million per aircraft, you can see why there have been plenty of reservations along the way. It is a flawed genius, which has needed countless tweaks and modifications along the way to make it what it is we see today. But despite its troubled path and, frankly, eye-watering cost, what has finally emerged is extraordinary and may well fundamentally change how we view aviation. The design of the tilt-rotor aircraft has gone up to a completely different stratosphere. The V-22 Osprey. Part aircraft, part helicopter. One very fast, very agile, revolutionary piece of engineering. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to do your own engineering, obviously around me now, I have some KiwiCo boxes, the headphones one, the one for 0 to 12 months with lots of toys in it and learning tools and such. Please go do check them out through the link below and use that code MEGA to get 20% off. Supports the show. Thank you for watching.